There's a famous quote that says, "Resistance to the organised mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organised in his individuality as the mass itself." And that's a quote from a legendary philosopher, I would say. He gets legendary status, and that's Carl Jung, or Dr. Carl Jung. Now, I've read some of Carl Jung's books. Certainly, The Undiscovered Self I thought was brilliant, and it does have a lot of quotes in there. But there is one particular part of that book which shines a light on personal sovereignty, for me anyway. And I believe that personal sovereignty and personal responsibility is, in the main, the difference between people on the left of politics and people on the right. And as Carl Jung says, there are two groups of people in life. One of the groups of people believe that they can effect a change into the world through their own actions. The other type of people are reactive beings, and they just react to things that are happening to them. And those different mindsets lead to exponentially different paths of existence. Because the first person who believes he can make a change in the world, what they'll do, they'll go out and make a change in the world. They will forge their own path. The other person will eke their way through life generally, and some of the time have a fabulous life. I'm not putting that type of life down, being a reactive personality. It certainly has its plus points, its positives. You know, it certainly can be a lonely place sometimes going Route 1. Being completely 100% responsible for yourself isn't easy. And certainly it's a thing that a lot of people never actually achieve, as far as what I can see. But when we're actually looking at a person, that's the little foundation there, just about sovereignty. I'll move on to the main point here. When we're looking at a person, that person there has been reared in some way. And when I say reared, I mean brought up as a child, obviously by parents, or whoever brought them up. Now, those people are very, very important. The reason that they're important is they lay the groundwork for the whole of the child's psychology going forward. And it's been said before, that by the time a kid is like 8 or 9 or something like that, I'm not a psychologist, but by the time a kid's 8 or 9, then the bricks have been laid in the house. You can kind of change the door or, change little bits of the house, but essentially the foundation of the house has already been made. And that is one of the ways to view right and left-wing personalities. Now, in the main, when I often talk to people on the left of politics, they often will say to me, "Oh, well, we," and they talk in a collective terminology as part of the collective. And I'm not saying they're the Borg or anything, although sometimes people on the left do tend to act a little bit like the Borg, repeating phrases over and over. But the people on the left believe that they are part of a collective, and they believe in their minds that that collective is something called humanity. But that's not actually true, because the people on the left of politics are part of their collective in politics. They don't view, for instance, somebody like me as part of their collective. I myself don't view myself as part of a collective, and I'm from the right of politics. And so, for me, I am an individual, a sovereign individual, and somebody who is accountable to myself, accountable to my family, my friends, and, that whole plethora of thought that goes along with that. I'm not a lone wolf, but, I've met many lone wolves in its truest sense, meaning that I do like to have people around me. But, I've met people who don't like to do that. I don't need a lot of people around me, but I do need people around me. And these two psychologies, just getting back to the main point here without waffling on, there is a right-wing personality and left, and these aren't simply a collection of political beliefs, although we believe them to be political beliefs. We believe that we've rationalised all of this and we've thought about it. In some cases, that's even true. However, what we're doing a lot of the time is we're regurgitating a lot of the things that we've already been told and retesting them in the world. And I generally believe it comes down to something as simple as what I'm about to say here. When a child is growing up, if that child is told to go out and make something of themselves, is told to think for themselves, not worry about the mass of people, don't be a sheep, and you have the life that you want, and you can have any life you want in this world, and more to that there is no pie to be divided up amongst people. You are the pie, you are the cake. You can make your own cakes, even. Okay, so there isn't a limited amount of money out there. There is an unlimited amount of money out there. And in this exponential mindset, in this growth mindset, or abundant mindset, you could call it, people on the right are often brought up in that type of paradigm, meaning that they'll be told as a young person, look, you can go out and you can have whatever you want. Now, some people may say, but they're given money by their parents or whatever it is, and that might be true. They may be better off than other people, and they may have a better start in life than other people, and they may not have as many problems as other people. And I'm not denying that. However, we're not talking about privilege in that sense. What we're talking about here is foundational mindsets of left and right. And so the people on the right are told that. There is no cake, there is no pie, you make your own pie, you can have any life you want in this world if you work hard and go and achieve it. And don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise. And those are the words that I myself have uttered to my daughter and son. And, I've said this over and over, and I keep saying, and I will say it to people as well, I do not believe in my heart that there's anything to be divided up. I believe wholeheartedly that, you should design your life and beautify your existence wholeheartedly. Without fear of reservation, you should design the life that you want for yourself. And, in that is what I would term one of the things about being a conservative. Now, I'm not talking about, being part of the, Kemi Badenoch and co, all of that. I'm not talking about that. I am on the right of politics, but what I'm talking about in the vein of, Roger Scruton, being a conservative and having that value is foundational. And what comes out from that, everything gets built out from that. So from that moment there, everything goes out. So we're in an abundance mindset here, right? So what do? Well, we start a business, or we do this, or we save some money, or we accumulate resources and assets. And this is what Tories do. This is what Conservatives do. And that's right. That's what Conservatives do. Now, on the flip side of that, let's take another child. Let's take a child that was brought up by parents who continually told them things like, life is really unfair and we need to make life fair. Wouldn't it be great if everything was correct and as it should be, and life was fair and people were fair to one another, and we respected everyone? And you see where the foundational arguments come from. It's really straightforward, and I don't think it's the result of complicated decision making or anything else like that. I think it comes down to something as basic as that, which is how you view the world informs your own political structure in your own mind. How you see the world, how you are brought into the world, how your parents treat you, what your beliefs are, particularly about things like family and money, yes, and achievement and success, yes, all of those things. like running businesses and doing whatever you want to do. Yes, looking after yourself. All of these I consider to be conservative values. However, on the other side of that coin, what would happen if, when I would have been growing up, that I would have been told something completely different, namely that life is extremely unfair, that the people in power are bad people generally. Rich people, what they do is they get their money through kind of old money, old colonial power money or whatever it is like that. You know, what they'll do is they'll sit on their fortune and they'll pass it on through the generations and they'll hoard that cash all for themselves. And they're not too bothered about other people. And you see the beginnings of these philosophies. And I don't think generally, to come back to the point here, I don't think it's overly difficult when you talk to somebody. You can speak to them, you can listen to how they talk, and you can understand where their mind's going, and immediately you can prescribe, you can say, oh yeah, that person is on the left of politics, or that person is on the right of politics. And so often we are drawn in. I suppose the point to this is this. Often we are drawn in to these weird kind of existential and really clever and intellectual arguments about this and that, and how you feel about, you know, privatization and, you know, what about universal basic income and all of this stuff. However, the decision as to what you generally like has already been taken a long time ago. It's already happened. And so we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves about our political beliefs, and we also shouldn't be too hard on other people for them. I often feel really, really sorry for people on the left. And the reason I feel sorry for people on the left is that they don't appear to be very happy. They're always unhappy. Whereas everyone I know on the right of politics is generally happy. Now, if you're listening to this and you're a left-winger and you think I'm being a moron, that's fine. I'm quite happy to take that. These are just some thoughts that have been flipping through my mind today as, I was in the company of a child and I was watching the parent interact with the child. And I thought immediately, where's that child going? And it didn't take long for me to realise that that child is going to be a left-wing baby. Because isn't life so dreadfully unfair all of the time? And all of the rich people are so nasty. And all of that. It is a strange world we live in, and human beings themselves, we are very, very strange creatures. And we like to believe ourselves to come up with intelligent arguments and to be intelligent generally, but the reality of the situation is life is a lot more basic than that. And a lot of the stuff's already been keyed in. It is possible to change, but it's bloody hard to do. And I'm sure if any of you out there have managed to change, then you will know just how hard it is to change fundamental things that have been built into you over the years. But, it's just really a thought to say we shouldn't be as hard on each other as we are. Different political beliefs are okay. I would hate to be on the left of politics because they just never have any fun. But perhaps they look at us, or me, I don't know if you're left or right, but perhaps they look at me and say, well, he never has any fun. Just why don't you relax and just chill out or whatever. You know what people are like. Anyway, just some thoughts there about foundational political beliefs. I hope you find that mildly interesting. And thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it.